So, one of my recent videos received quite a lot of views, far more than my videos usually receive. There were many questions and comments. As I was responding to many questions in the comments section of the videos, I found many of the same questions came up again and again. So I thought I would make a video here to answer some of the most common. So without any further ado, here we go. So I recently set up some rudimentary face tracking for the eye mechanism. I used a fairly large webcam set up around her throat. This is certainly not ideal, but it was the first time I'd ever worked with face tracking before. Right now I'm thinking I'd like to put a camera either around her neck, embedded in something like a choker maybe, or in like a tiara headpiece kind of thing. I'm not sure. Putting cameras in the eyes does make some sense. You can have the algorithm that positions the eyes, try to get whatever object it's supposed to be looking at just framed in the center of the sensor window, which is probably a simpler task compared to some more complicated triangulation that you have to do, where you need to know the position of the camera, the position of the eye, and the position of the object in a 3D space to get really nice looking eye motion. However, I think it would be a pretty challenging problem. Already with the camera I'm using, it has far too narrow a field of view. It should be possible to see nearly like 180 degrees around in front of the face, certainly at least 120 degrees. And lenses that can do this are considerably bulkier. I'd need to either have some completely custom lens manufactured for the eyes that I currently have designed, or find some existing lens that fits properly. And this might end up causing some problems with the aesthetics of the way the eye looks. You can see here in the cutaway version of her head, the eyes I currently designed do use glass lenses, although they're not for optical purposes, they're just for gives it a sense of realism, even if it's not actually serving a purpose by like transmitting that light to a sensor. So to answer the question, I like the idea, but I think it'd be very challenging and probably very expensive to arrive at an outcome that is effectively the same as just putting a camera around her neck. Maybe in the future I will try this. It does sound very interesting to try, but for now I don't think so. Also, I think a camera such as this here, which, I mean, this kind of thing would definitely fit inside one of these eyeballs. It would also fit very nicely in like a tiara or around a neckband or something. So that's what I'm thinking right now. I mean, the biggest problem right there might be if it's around the neck, maybe the chin's getting in the way. That could be a problem. If it's around the head, like a tiara or something, then you got to deal with the whole complication of having like this permanent head attachment, which, I don't know, maybe, I don't know, not a good look. So what is this thing? So the short answer is, I don't know. I don't really think that way, I guess. I suppose I'm making a cute girl robot, but I don't know what kind of goal that is. It seems like a bit of a catch-all project for various other things I find myself working on. I like doing 3D modeling, sculpting, plotting out interesting electronic devices and mechanisms, drawing, painting, animating, other things too. So this is me bringing all my interests together in one place, really. In the short term, now I am designing a more robust shoulder mechanism that can support like a proper arm. So some goals I have are to extend the torso downwards by another module down to her waist. I'd like to add some arms. I'd like to add more sophisticated computer vision and other sensors as well. Her nose right now is already a joystick for crucial booping. Which brings us to AI integration. My thinking right now is to use a local Llama 3 model for the LLM, 11 Labs for speech generation, and some as yet to be decided speech-to-text functionality. I've not put a lot of time into this yet, but I've explored a few options, so sometime in the future. I think at the time I was using the DaVinci 3 model, not GPT-4 or even GPT-3, which was actually working pretty well. So there's a whole collection of like short-term goals, I guess. In trying to do one thing, I end up doing another thing, and then I go off in a completely different direction. So it would be great to be able to speak to the head, have the head respond, and as much as possible process this all locally without requiring some kind of subscription service or anything like that. Like I don't want to be paying for some monthly service that's charging money for tokens, that like paying by the minute, paying by the hour to do this or that. I don't want that. Nobody wants that. But I think it'll be a lot of time before I have anything like this working properly. So what goes into making this? Well, I think I spend most of my time doing 3D modeling and printing out components. I happen to enjoy doing the modeling, so this is not such a bad thing. Others may disagree. I think picking up a 3D printer and learning to model 3D objects for printing is a fantastically useful skill. Working with microcontrollers such as an Arduino board, which is a bit of both programming and a bit of electronics, is very useful too. Anatomy, some understanding of how the body moves around, the muscles, the bones, how they articulate, the kinematics of it all. I studied art for many years. It's probably my main skill set. This feels like an important thing to study, but I'm certainly biased about this. I'm using Cinema 4D for all my part modeling. I find it very versatile, and I use it for a lot of other things as well. I think it's typically used in a lot of like visual effects and animation related fields. The mouth of at least some of these heads have 3 motors in them. So the lower lip can go up and down, and then there are 2 motors the side of the mouth. So there's some ability to form mouth shapes for speech. It's not like a complete set though. I need to do like a complete redesign of the head for a better mouth-jaw mechanism in the future if I want to have more moving parts in there. And I'll probably do this, but it's not a priority right now. Yeah, I sculpted the face on the computer and then printed molds for casting it in silicone. The process is not really that complicated, but there are definitely a lot of little details that can cause problems. There's lots of videos on YouTube about silicone mold making, so it's definitely, you need some familiarity about the ins and outs of working with silicone itself. It's a bit of a strange material if you've never used it before, but after you've used it a few times, well, it's not strange anymore. So you definitely would want to use like a platinum catalyzed silicone. I use a printed rigid plastic mold, so that is maybe more similar to the kind of thing used in injection molding. So that might be a good topic to look into if you're curious how to make these kinds of molds. There are certainly plenty of videos on YouTube for a lot of this stuff though. I do have a mold ready for casting the silicone for the chest component. So maybe I'll do a video in the future sort of describing how that works. That could be a bit helpful, I think. I'm using various microcontroller boards, Arduinos and others as well. Recently I've been exploring some single board computers such as Pi boards, and I've been heavily making use of ChatGPT for coding, since this is not an area of expertise for me. Cat ears. Cat ears are a definite possibility.